Yeah, welcome to Not the Top 20 podcast. It's our League One 1 to 24 predictions for the 2026-27 season, and it's sponsored by SBK. League One, an intriguing division to try and predict. Last year we had the incredible Lincoln City story, and Cardiff City weren't bad either, but they didn't have many other challenges. We'd be hoping for a more exciting automatic promotion battle this year. Some big hitters coming down from the Championship. Sure, you've got Leicester, you've got Sheffield Wednesday, but how about Oxford United? Wow. Big club for the level. He's George Ellick, Oxford United fan. I'm Ali Maxwell. And George, the sponsors of the 1 to 24s this year and new sponsors of NTT20's weekly Thursday betting show are SBK. We had such a good summer with them sponsoring the England pod during the World Cup, and we go again in the EFL arena.
Yeah, absolutely, and really excited about it too. SBK is built for proper football fans with no casino, great odds, and great features like Acca Boost, Fresh Legs, 2Up, and the Bet Feed, making it feel a bit different from your usual betting app.
Exciting, they're also partnered with a number of EFL clubs this season, including in League One, Bradford and Huddersfield Town. Ooh. So sounds like a couple of trips to Yorkshire for us.
Yes, please.
I reckon. You can get £60 in free bets if you sign up using the link in the description and place your first bet of £20. T's and C's do apply for that sign-up offer. Please make sure you check them. And betting is very strictly for over 18s only and comes with significant risks. So please gamble responsibly and understand the risks that come with gambling. The best place to do so is gambleaware.org. Starting in 24th, we've got Burton Albion. Now, this is kind of the team that have been hovering for 6 seasons now. In fact, within the last 6 seasons, they have finished within a range of 6 places. The highest they've finished is 15th. The lowest they've finished is 20th. They have just about stayed up pretty consistently for 6 years. We think that comes to an end. Even though Gary Bowyer in the dugout is someone we love and respect. He saved them in the 24-25 season. And last season, they were near the bottom for the most part, but things never got too ugly and they eased away and ended up finishing in 17th. But the ownership group, NFG, who took over long-term owner Ben Robinson, they've been lucky with Gary Bowyer because, frankly, their ownership of the club has not gone well by basically any measure. But he's kept them up twice. Losses of around £8.3 million in the 24-25 season for Burton Albion. And the 2025-26 figure is expected to drop, but only to about £5.5 million. So financially, it's been a little bit crazy. They've also accepted 28 breaches of misconduct charges from the FA relating to agent regulations. It's not been good on that front.
That is bad conduct.
So how about this summer? Well, they've lost Jake X. Geesley Beasley, Alex Hartridge, Udoka Godwin Malith, 3 key players for them. Brad Collins as well, the goalkeeper, and about 8 squad players have left too. And they have signed Corey Adai in goal, Curtis Tilt, experienced defender, Matthew Dennis, a striker that had a flash with Carlisle in League 2 seasons ago and did next to nothing for Notts County last season, and Bem Arubi, who I'm excited about, but is out injured for the next few months. Their squad looks unbelievably thin and poor and lacking in quality. They have Charlie Webster, who missed most of last season and is missing the start of this season through injury. If he's fit and he stays, he's good in midfield. Tyrese Shade, if he stays, is a good attacking player. Elsewhere, I'm excited for the youngster Suleiman Krubali, 17-year-old or maybe 18 now, central midfielder that I think will be starting games. But there's not much else that I like here apart from Gary Bowyer. He's my only hope, really. But I think it's going to be a pretty competitive league this year, and the squad looks too poor to survive in League One from my point of view, unless they get 8 more signings that all come in straight away and have an impact once the season's already starting. It doesn't sound likely. They are bottom in our 1 to 24s.
Yeah, in 23rd, we've got a team who are recently promoted through the playoffs out of League 2, and that is Notts County. It's just been, well, it hasn't been the summer that I expected, really, from Notts County. Maybe it has been in terms of departures. Alessandro Jatta has been linked to a move away for a long time. He has now moved on. And as you mentioned, Dennis has moved to Burton. Lucas Smith has come in to replace them, an Australian 6'4" target man who's been playing in Finland. We'll have to see. Rumours of Jody Jones moving on to Orient. He hasn't left yet, but we'll have to see. Obviously, a key creative player for them. It's the incomings that are surprising. Now, we know Notts County recruit in a way that is different to basically any other team. Like, they have their own recruitment models that is bespoke to them. It's their own. They don't outsource from anywhere else, and they basically rank players and they buy players that they believe to be, of a high ranking. But I'd be amazed if any of the players they brought in were of any interest to any other League One teams. It's really strange. They brought in Max Sanders from Crewe, who's been a decent League Two midfielder for the last few seasons. Matthew Baker from Newport County, who's a promising League Two centre-back, but again, by no means standout, you wouldn't say. Dean Campbell, who's been okay for Northampton for a relegated side last season in League One. In Emil Aqua and Jack Evans, you got two players who are playing for relegated Harrogate in League Two last season, and neither of whom excelled in any way. Ollie Cooper should be a decent addition, you'd think, from Swansea on loan, but again, had a disappointing spell at Wigan last season. None of this, maybe they're the geniuses, right? Maybe they're the ones who can find, and judging by the way that Notts County's stock has risen under these owners and how they've gone from the National League up to League One now, there clearly is method in terms of what they're doing. My issue is that we also know that they aren't a ownership group who like to spend. They like to cut their cloth accordingly. They have a very rigid wage structure. And this feels to me like they are now having to basically try and compete at League One level without spending League One wages. And that means signing League Two players. With Martin Patterson, clearly he will, off the back of a promotion, if the squad isn't good enough, then it wouldn't be that surprising to see him agitating to move on so that his own career isn't impacted by this. It just isn't the kind of momentum pushing summer that you'd expect after a promotion.
Yeah, I think you summed it up really well. I think with these, like the ownership saved the club basically. They're in non-league. Like Notts County should never be there, and they've taken them back to League One, and they've done so not by outspending like a Wrexham, for example. They've done it through basically good decision making and sporting success and consistent improvement rather than dramatic improvement. But as is always the case in football, you can reach a level where you can be a victim of your own success, because you can reach a level, whether you're a player, a manager, or a club or an ownership, where it just gets quite difficult. And it does look like that from the outside right now. As you say, they're happy to lose £1 million a season and fund that, which is still quite a lot of money. But in League One, it's normally 4 million or 5 million that owners are expected to spend just to have a League One club. And I think there's not a lot of excitement from Notts fans heading into the season, which is a shame because they were so good in the playoffs and deserve promotion based on their playoff performances. 22nd, we think Peterborough United will get relegated to League Two. They finished 18th last season. They had 1 point after 7 games. They brought in Luke Williams, former Swansea and Notts County manager. They won 7 of his first 10 and things looked quite good. And then in the second half of the season, they were a bottom 4 team, 21 points from 23 games, 1 win in their last 15. Williams is an interesting manager. He plays really technical football. He's known to be excellent on the grass, a great coach. But he comes into he's manager of a club that, look, they've had 2 18th place finishes in a row, Peterborough. After about 15 to 20 years where they were consistently finishing above that, obviously reaching the Championship on various occasions, but always in League One terms, they were a kind of playoff contender at the very least. But they're in a tough spell at the moment. 2 18th place finishes. I don't think it's an aberration. I don't think it's just a one-off poor season. I think they have dropped down the food chain.
Yeah, I agree. And even though Luke Williams came in last season and put together a run of form that kind of pushed them away from the relegation zone, it did regress again. And I don't think it's as simple as, they improved after making the managerial change. They've also lost key players. Kyra Lisby moves on and goes to Millwall. Dara McAntony has said off the back of that move that he would spend the money or some of the money that was brought in there, but it hasn't really come to pass yet, albeit Abdullah Barr seems like he's coming in, a right winger from Sunderland who played the Championship football, wasn't great, hasn't played football for a long time. Again, not necessarily. It still feels to me like a club who are cutting their cloth rather than behaving the way that Peterborough used to behave, which was to spend money in order to make money. We've also seen Archie Collins leave after the expiry of his contract. He's yet to sign for anyone. And Jimmy J. Morgan, who'll be starting as a 10 or a striker for West Brom next season. And so you'd think he's a big loss as well. Excited to see Bolu Shofawoke, a 17-year-old left winger who's played 90 minutes for them in the Carabao Cup last weekend.
Lots of young players, as always, and it is exciting, particularly from a neutral's point of view. I actually think the fans are almost like they've had 2 decades of young players, and it is exciting, but it also they constantly feel back at the start of a cycle, and that's what they're being sold again here.
For sure.
And that's quite hard to get behind time and time again.
And you look at the squad now compared to the good Peterborough squads of the past, and you're looking for like who are the players that might be, and Lisbon was obviously one this year that we probably wouldn't have foreseen happening. So I'm sure there could be one or two there. But at the moment, it just doesn't look like to me like a squad who have improved on last season, really, and still the way that the club operate has changed. And Darren McAntony's spoken about needing to get the debt down, and successfully doing so to a degree in the last 18 months or so, and that seems to be the priority, which is a good thing. Like club owners looking to preserve the future of a club and safeguard the future of a club should be more important than spending in order to succeed. But it does at the moment seem like a club that maybe are looking to do that whilst maintaining League One status than being any more positive. And we've also seen with Luke Williams in the past that even though he's had success, things turned before. Things turned at Swansea pretty alarmingly. We're already on the slide when he left Notts County after speculation linking him elsewhere.
Yeah, we've got Barnsley going down with them in 21st. Obviously, for both of these clubs, this would be a huge issue, a huge failure, and getting back to a level in League Two where neither of them feel they belong or deserve to be in kind of historical terms. But I think there are kind of broad similarities with why we are worried about these two teams. Last season, Barnsley finished 15th. Conor Harahan was their head coach. He left at the end of the season. They were exciting in attack for sure, particularly with Reyes Cleary, particularly with David McGoldrick and others. And they did develop some young players under Harahan, but they were comically bad at defending, barely kept a clean sheet for like 6 months at one point. Daniel Stendel is back. Daniel Stendel, very popular former manager of Barnsley, who won promotion from League One to the Championship. So they get him back and he can just do the same again, right? Well, I don't think so. The team that Daniel Stendel had then had in it Ethan Pinnock, Alex Mowat, Kiefer Moore. Pretty good spine and plenty of other quality there as well. This is a very different Barnsley that he walks back into. The relationship between the owners and the fans is horrendous. And Stendel's appointment might have been a way of the owners kind of placating the fans, but fans aren't idiots. It's not going to last very long if Stendel can't get a tune out the squad. He's not going to be blamed. They will be blamed. And he has a very, very, very young team to try and put his incredibly intense high-pressing style into. So obviously can work really well with young players, can also ask a lot of them physically across a 46-game season. So I'd be a bit worried about injuries. It feels like they are trying to go on the same journey that they've already been on, which started about 10 years ago now, under Hecky, and then going forward with Stendel and that lot, with the young players that did take Barnsley on a genuinely exciting journey that took them to the Championship playoffs. But they really are, if that is the case, they are at step one of that journey, and the squad right now has some good young players in it. Right, Cleary is brilliant, and I think he might leave before the end of the window. Patrick Kelly's really, really exciting young player. There's a couple of others as well that I'm looking forward to watching. Yoga Nathan and Bland and Leo Farrell, if they can bed him in. I think Sam Gale's a really exciting signing from Gillingham and should suit a heavy pressing system. Really good front-footed defender. But basically the whole squad is just young players, and it feels like it's a sort of player trading model, which, again, as a neutral, I find interesting to see if it can succeed right now, but I'm not sure is appropriate for succeeding in the short term in what is quite a brutal division. And I think it's pretty rubbish for fans, to be honest, unless you catch lightning in a bottle and you have a manager that somehow gets an unbelievable tune out of a group of young players. I'm not in love with most of the signings. I think McGeehan's a decent addition, and Sam Gale, as mentioned. The rest of it, I'm not particularly excited about. I think the atmosphere will be quite poor, and I think young squads can find bad atmospheres quite difficult. I don't think the squad looks good enough to me at all, and I think there is a chance that it could be a bit of a car crash, to be honest. And in League One, with 4 relegation spots to catch you if you do have a bad car crash, it's pretty brutal. So, yeah, this will be sad and ugly if it does happen. We think it will. Barnsley in 21st relegated. In terms of SBK's relegation odds, well, they have a pretty clear 4 favourites to go down, and they are Bromley, Wimbledon, Burton and Cambridge. We've only got one of those 4, Burton, going down in our predictions. Peterborough at 4.2, Barnsley at 4.5, and Notts County 3.95 in that next group of 4 most likely per the SBK odds. George, we do hit one of the favourites for relegation in 20th. That is AFC Wimbledon.
Yeah, we've got Wimbledon 20th, which I think is probably a relatively positive assessment, given staying up has to be and always will be in their current guise the aim for AFC Wimbledon. I think Johnny Jackson comes out of last season with a lot of credit. They started the season well. Were unlucky to lose to Luton on opening night, where they put in a good performance, but followed that up with some really good results. Results then turned kind of halfway through the season, and then Jackson was mobile enough and nimble enough to kind of change the style of play and get them back, getting the points necessary to stay up. Unlike most teams in League One and League Two, they haven't really lost any key players. Patrick Bauer moves on, having not played a huge part. Omer Bugil, who's been a big part of them over the last couple of years, he leaves too. Dan Sweeney replaces that kind of no-nonsense defensive senior centre-back of Bauer. James Tilley came back in on loan in January and played a big part in the end of the season. He is signed permanently now, had a brilliant previous time at AFC Wimbledon, someone who the fans absolutely love. Jayden Stockley is, I think, a kind of perfect AFC Wimbledon striker. We know that he carries a big physical threat. He can score goals in teams that create chances for him. Isn't the fastest, wouldn't be suited for playing a lot of teams, I think, at League One level, but certainly for the way that Jackson sets his team up, I think he should be good. And then Zach Nelson's probably the most impressive signing. Someone had a really good loan spell there last season. I think Don's fans were pretty sure that he wouldn't be attainable for them, but he's returned on a permanent. Key players remain there. Alistair Smith, Reeves, Marcus Brown, they're all still at the club. So it feels like a season where they've improved rather than regressed, and should be able to continue to to upset the odds, I guess, and secure survival.
Yes, sir. 19th, Wigan Athletic. They came 16th last season. It was not a great season. In fact, at times they flirted with relegation, but 2 good months between mid-Feb and mid-April kept them up, and that's because Gary Caldwell came back to the club, replacing Ryan Lowe and having a really good initial impact. Caldwell, very popular manager, both at Wigan and throughout the league, really, experienced at the level as well. They've lost 55% of their minutes from last season, and good players as well. That is a problem for me. Sam Tickle in goal, fine. Jason Carr, experienced centre-back, okay. Callum Wright was their player of the season, last season scoring the winner for Hibs up at Rangers. And Joe Taylor, who just came in and scored, it felt like, pretty much every game during that period, which saw them survive. So I think this was...
I think there are some Wigan fans hoping he might return.
What?
But, yeah.
Wow. If Joe Taylor returns to Wigan, no offence, can I be his agent next time? Please. Thank you. Those are not every team that loses half of its minutes has to be an issue, but those are really good players, and I don't think the ones they've replaced them with look like they're ready to be of the same level. At the back, they've signed Connor Barrett from Walsall, the right back, all right. Jeremiah Chiloka Mullen from Dunfermline is a defender, rather. I must admit, I don't know too much about. Akil Higgins and Sonny Perkins have got some attacking players that I'm not hugely keen on. Hindolo Mustafa on loan from Crystal Palace is quite interesting. Very young attacking midfielder. Joe Walsh, the goalkeeper, will replace Tickle, which should be fine. And Max Power returns to be the midfield metronome. He's a good player. Caldwell's a good manager. I think that's a positive. They've got some young players that I'm intrigued to watch more of. Lytton Chapman and James Carragher, I should say, 2 young defenders. And Tobias Brennan, hopefully he's got a spot in this squad in midfield. I like the look of him. And I am a Dara Costello fan, and I want that on record because I think he might find his shooting boots this season, and his movement and his pace is lively enough that if he does, he will score some goals. But I'm not a great fan of this squad overall. A little bit like Barnsley and Peterborough, this is partly around the general direction of the club, the atmosphere around the place, and the fact that it's another owner that I don't think is able to do financially what a lot of other owners in League One do, which is spend £5 million a year just to fund a squad that can be competitive. League One, as a financial landscape, is pretty rubbish, I think, at the moment. I don't like it. I don't think it's great for fair competition, but it is what it is at the moment. And the EFL are trying to make steps to level the playing field a little bit with some new spending rules that came in this summer that seem to be impacting some teams, but not others. I think Wigan are a bit stuck in the mud. And I think their previous glories, Premier League years, FA Cup years where they were punching way above their weight, I don't think they really help with the current reality, which is just a little bit tepid, if you ask me. Lacking match winners, not convinced by the defensive personnel. A lot will depend on Caldwell's tactics. I think 19th for them. 18th, that's Bromley. That's Bromley, the League Two champions from last season. We've got them finishing in 18th. Now, It's their first ever season in League One, just as it's their third ever season in the Football League. This is an incredible footballing success story, building brilliant stuff off the pitch as well, Bromley, improving in all areas. Certainly still improving on the pitch, I think, with Andy Woodman in charge, doing an incredible job. They lost Idris Odateu and Jude Arthurs and Ben Krauhaus, 3 good players for them last season. But they are not sitting on their hands and just relying on the same core of players to step up. They are looking to evolve to a degree by using their League One status to attract players that Bromley could never have attracted before in their history. So we can go through them. Shamal George comes in to challenge Grant Smith for the goalkeeping gloves. Kamal Grant, Chance Hedman, Dion Woodman, Richard Taylor, Jacob Mendy, all defenders that seem to fit the bill, mostly very physically impressive, good in the air. Camille Conte, only 23. He hasn't had a good year or two, but there's a player in there. And I wouldn't be that surprised if he comes to thrive at Bromley if he just gets a run of starts. JJ McKiernan, box-to-box midfielder. Ethan Archer on loan. We know he's got real quality at the top end of the pitch. And Victor Adebayejo comes in to challenge Cheek and Kabamba for minutes at the top of the pitch. Broadly fits the profile of someone who, even if he's not scoring, is going to put himself about a little bit. So for me, almost every addition clearly represents an attempt to upgrade the squad for the level. And they all are signed very clearly with a profile that fits the way that Bromley play and therefore should have an easier time than some new signings do slotting into the team if and when they get their chance. It's a very settled club and squad. They score goals, they are big, they are physical, they are direct, they're very dangerous from set pieces, and they do have some quality as well. Don't let anyone tell you this is just a bunch of cloggers. I think they'll be fine in League One this season. It is a big jump, of course it is, but yeah, 18th, we think Bromley will go well, and I'm intrigued to see how they do. Now, Friday night, this Friday, act quick. We've got a season launch party. It's in Bermondsey George at the Volley South, which used to be called the Blue Monk. Yes. And we want you to come and hang out with us.
It's on the Bermondsey Beer Mile, so if you want to make a day of it, you can do that as well. Close to London Bridge Station, so it should be easy enough to get around. Do come watch it with us. It's going to be a good game as well, I think, Wolves against Blackburn. Tony Mowbray's return to Blackburn, and the very, very talented Wolves squad will be there from kind of 6-ish. We'll be doing a bit on before the game, a bit of a Q&A. You can ask us about our 1-24s, pick us up on whatever you disagree with. Few drinks. It's a £5 for a ticket without a pint, or a £10 with a pint. Pints in London more than a £5, so the smart play there would be to
that
get
would just
the
be
£10 one.
Good summer recruitment.
Yeah, but do whatever you like. But please do come. It's going to be really fun. A chance to meet some like-minded EFL fans. It'll be the first watch party of hopefully a few this season if there is the appetite for it. And I'm certainly hungry for some football.
Yeah, I'm hungry to hear you talk about Cambridge United, who got automatically promoted from League Two, and we think will return to the level into the warm embrace of 17th.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of continuity here. Neil Harris is the kind of proper, what you're going to get manager. Hard to see them struggling whilst he's still at the helm. A lot of key players from last season who are good ages all still there. Liam Bennett remains, Ben Knight remains, Kel Watts remains.
Great age.
Exactly, kind of mid-20s, on their way up. Key players last season. Whereas Gibbons, Purrington, Brophy, all solid enough, and they do move on. But I like the players that they've signed. Callum Stead had a very good season last season for Barnet. Offers a goal-scoring threat, but also a bit of creativity and physicality. Ghassan Ahadmeh has basically done nothing since his very good spell at Cambridge. But sometimes when a player goes back to where they last had some success, where a fan base knows what he's about, it can provide that bit of spark. They're not reliant on him because they've got other players who can play up front. Louis Appere, Stead, who I mentioned there as well. But it wouldn't be a massive surprise to me to see Ahadmeh contributing more than he has done in recent loan spells or his Charlton permanent spell elsewhere. Isaac Heath, who was very good in his first loan last season. Accrington comes in on a permanent transfer. Callum Perry, who was very good at Rochdale at centre-back, looks set to play left-back for Cambridge this season. It's players who are on their way up. It's players who have come off the back of really good seasons. For a manager who seems to have a good control over this squad, I think they'll be absolutely fine and could surprise a few as well.
Now, can I be honest?
Yes.
Thank you.
Always be honest.
In my head, and this happens at various parts of the table, the way I'm looking at this, there's a little bit of a dotted line now, if I may. And in 16th, we've got Mansfield Town. But in my head, this is kind of the start of the next chunk. Mansfield came 10th last season. They finished 10 points off the playoffs. It was their highest league finish for almost 50 years. So if you're watching this Mansfield team, just know that unless you're over 48, it's probably the best Mansfield team that's existed in your lifetime. And if that doesn't make you feel emotional, I don't know what does. Nigel Clough's at the helm. He's now the longest serving manager in the EFL after Simon Weaver and Harrogate got relegated. And he's the one that's taken them from trying and failing to secure League Two promotion to their highest league finish for almost 50 years. So a great success story. They've got the lowest squad churn in the division. They've lost next to nothing. And it's really about continuity. You know, they've signed David McGoldrick, yes please. Michael Smith, sure. John Russell makes his loan permanent. And yeah, they've lost Will Evans at the top of the pitch, which is probably not a bad sale for them, to be honest. They're quite an old team, very experienced. You know, Clough thrives with an experienced group. So for some clubs, it might not be appropriate to have a squad that's quite this old, but for Nigel Clough, that's the type of player that he gets the best out of. So I think it is the kind of appropriate way to go. I don't know how many more years they can kind of continue on this path, and next summer there might be a bit of a reckoning with many of them out of contract. But as for now, I'm not hugely concerned. I think it's one of those where even if they are broadly similar to last season, and I think they probably will be, I think the tide of League One will rise, and I think that takes some teams beyond them, if that makes sense.
Got to be careful of that rising tide.
Yes, sir. Doncaster are our 15th place team, George.
So Doncaster are an interesting one for me. You know, this time last year, we had a pint with Billy Sharp after he was our guest at Crosswires Festival in Sheffield, and he told us that Grant McCann had delivered the message. The promotion was the aim, back-to-back promotions, and we were surprised. And then they started the season quite well, and it was like, I remember we had a argument about who is better, Doncaster or Bradford. Mm-hmm. And you were sadly on the right side of that one. Because things then slid pretty alarmingly. And for a time, they were even threatened with relegation before kind of getting the points needed to put that to one side. The underlying numbers remained pretty good all season, so that's one thing to note.
Probably the biggest underperformance in the whole EFL, because it was both ends of the pitch. It was like 15 goals under their expected goals generated, and 15 goals over their XG against.
So you've got to look at that pretty positively. You know, Molyneux leaving to Salford is a huge blow. They've replaced him with Jordan Thomas, who, you know, Cheltenham fans really like. I'm pretty confident he's not going to replace the goal involvements of Molyneux, and I'm not entirely sure he's a League One winger myself. Alfie May comes in, who, you know, hasn't been great for a couple of years now, but playing in kind of as one striker in a glut of strikers here, he will be the main man, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he is a much better fit, because last season Doncaster really lacked a striker who could play consistent minutes. Isaac Hutchinson comes in off the back of a really good season last season at Cheltenham, where he scored a lot of goals. So in May and Hutchinson, it does feel like they brought goals in, which is necessary, because I don't think you can rely on Owen Bailey to score 13 goals again as he did last season. So, you know, it's... Also, I should say that Tommy Simpkin, I think, is an upgrade on Lo Tatala, who played a lot of football last season for them. Hakeem Adelakun came in January, and when he's at it is obviously brilliant, but is relatively inconsistent. I don't know. I'm struggling to see why they would be as bad as some of the worst teams in the league. But equally, if it wasn't for the good underlying numbers last season, maybe I'd be a bit more concerned. Mid-table feels about right for this group of players.
We got Stevenage in 14th. This would be a drop of 8 places from 6th. That was their equal highest ever league finish last season. It was an amazing achievement. They had the second best defensive record in the division. That's what fueled their success. Alex Ravel as the manager, tremendous man, great leader, great organiser, great motivator. One interesting wrinkle this summer is that his assistant manager, Neil Banfield, was poached by Michael Scabarlo, who's taken him to Bristol City. Scott Cuthbert, former Stevenage centre-back, has been promoted to assistant manager. One never knows quite what the balance of kind of power and tactical power and team shape and setup is between a manager and their assistant, but something like that always gives me a little cause for concern. They've lost some good players as well. Charlie Good's gone to MK Dons. White as well, the midfielder, is now at Argyle. You know, these are 2 players that richer teams at the level have been able to pick off, basically, and Sweeney leaves as well. What have they added to replace that? Well, Terence Van Kooten, former Stevenage centre-back, comes back. I think that's a good pickup for them. In midfield, Terry Taylor, someone I like a lot, actually, and if he can stay fit, I'm sure he'll get to a really good level for them to replace Harvey White. And up top, Josh Magennis and Ollie Sanderson, two big burly boys. Magennis a bit older, Sanderson a bit younger. We'll wait and see whether they've got goals in them, because that's what Stevenage have lacked historically, or certainly last season as well. I think there's some hope that Dan Kemp could come on again and become a star for the level. He certainly looks ready to do so from what I've seen, and that Phoenix Patterson could maybe start becoming a more regular League One contributor from an attacking point of view. But despite a strong identity, out of possession identity, despite continuity under Ravel and most of the squad, I just find it hard to believe that they can recreate last season. As I said, with Mansfield and Doncaster, and now with Stevenage, I do think there's teams from kind of mid-table and bottom half last season, and even those who just missed out on the playoffs, that I expect to be strong and kick on. And therefore, there are teams that they're going to have to get above if they finish where we think they will. And that means we've got Stevenage dropping to 14th. Now, no love lost between Stevenage and Leyton Orient, who developed quite a nice little mini rivalry since challenging for League 2 promotion a couple of seasons ago. We've got Orient above them in 13th.
Yeah, of all the teams we've got in mid-table, Orient are the ones where I worry we're going to be kicking ourselves for not being more bullish, because I think there's a chance they could be really good. Like, this is a team that were beaten playoff finalists season before last with an amazing group of loan players. They all left, and last summer's recruitment was a shambles, and everything was a shambles, and the whole season was terrible. But it does feel like they've gone from being playoff challengers to like almost predicted a relegation club off the back of one bad 12 months, when actually they've gone out and they've recruited basically a whole new team now. Scott Mitchell's come in as head of recruitment, who was at Oxford previously. He has a good reputation in the game. Richie Wellens kind of feels like, after spending a lot of last season in a bit of a sulk, is kind of back at it this time round. I went to Orient against Oxford on Saturday, and they were pretty good. Don Ballard being sold is obviously the headline news, but as we always say, selling your best players isn't bad. It enables you to go out and rebuild, and it's a lot of money they've got for him going to Bristol City, and immediately they went out and bought Jay Scabia from Grimsby, who I think is a good one to replace him. Abdullah going to Hibs is the other kind of big loss, I guess, but other than that, it's a lot of fringe players and loans going back. But I like the players they brought in. Like, I really like the players they brought in. Camrich last season was at Bristol Rovers on loan for the second half of the season from Tottenham, and was brilliant, and should be a huge player for them. And he should have been in League One, really. It was one of those loans that went to the wrong level. I think Armando Dobra has shown over a couple of seasons at Chesterfield that he is capable of playing it in League One, and those two on the flank should be really important. Isaac Hayden in the middle of the park gives them that steal. Nathan Baxter in goal is a very good shot stopper, as we've seen in the past. Finn Stevens comes in at right back, and Boniface on loan from Ipswich looked really good at left back on Saturday. Was really impressed by him. Olowu provides again a kind of a completely different level of dominant centre back in the middle of defence. Tony Springer out wide is a lively one in from Norwich. It's just a lot of players who've come in. I think, this is the third window in a row where we're seeing wholesale changes, but this time around, the players look of a better quality to me than last year. And having watched them kind of suffocate Oxford and really prevent Oxford from playing the game they wanted to play, and looking, clinical going forwards, and their subs changing the game in a positive way. We don't want to use the Carabao Cup as being particularly indicative of what's going, but I feel like seeing Orient in particular, who are, the most part of a new team, was really interesting. They looked a far better team to me than last season. So we've got them in 13th, which is still obviously, improvement on last season. There's still a lot of unknowns here, but I'd be more confident on Orient finishing higher than 13th, and I'd be surprised if it was another season of struggle. I'm
starting to feel like we think there might be 16 good teams in this division, because almost apologetic with some of these placings, but you got to place them. You can't have 17 teams in the top 10. It just doesn't work. Yeah, one thing I will say is don't leave your family holiday a day early to get back to watch a Carabao Cup first round game, which is what I did, and sat in the sun at Orient getting very hot, and it wasn't really worth it. But one man who doesn't look like he's at holiday, Richie Wellens. He looks fresh. Fresh as anything. Fresh as hell. He looks like in his mid-20s, which is a bit... Look, maybe it's just his son. Maybe it's Charlie. He's got another son that signed a pro deal and has been in pre-season friendly squads. Apparently look quite good. Ridiculous. 2 Wellens boys potentially in the squad. I wonder if they had a family holiday. Must have done. Well, as we know, taking a holiday after the start of the football season used to be a nightmare because it was difficult to keep up to date with the leagues, but that's all changed with NordVPN. That's it. It's freed us all up to go on holiday whenever we want, not just in the summer. Because, of course, watching sports when you're abroad nowadays is no longer the issue it once was. So get something booked, really, because you don't need to miss a single kick of football, from live stuff to highlights, all of it really. With NordVPN, you switch your location from anywhere in the world in order to access the content that you pay for and that you enjoy at home. I also use it to book flights to avoid price discrimination. It's very easy to use, one of the fastest VPNs out there. Great for cybersecurity as well, which I take very seriously. It can shield your online activities from hackers, and it can make public Wi-Fi safer to use. Just a great and important addition to modern life, up there with, I guess, an air fryer or something along those lines.
It actually wouldn't work for the Wellenses because the only thing it can't do is actually play and manage games for you, and they actually need to be there in order to do that. But we've got an exclusive discount for NTT20 listeners, a discounted price and 4 months extra for free by heading to nordvpn.com/NTT20. That's nordvpn.com/NTT20. Wow. The top half of League One, the top half of the EFL.
Ding, ding, ding.
Who have we got in 12th?
Reading.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding. Reading, 12th. Boy, we've had some fun with Reading over the years on these shows. They finished 12th last season, and this is a repeat of that. But a bit like I alluded to before the halfway mark, I quite like them. I'm broadly positive about them, but it turns out if you're positive about 16 teams, you still got to put one of them 16th and one of them 12th, and that's Reading. Interesting context around this. Liam Richardson is their manager. Now, a Reading fan on NTT20 Squad, writing a preview of Reading's season, said, one of the strangest dynamics in the EFL going into the season, he said, with confidence, I'd say that if we go behind at any point on opening day, you'll hear boos and chants of Richardson out. So that's how they're heading into the season in terms of the manager's relationship with the fans. He had a good start. They moved up the table after sacking Noel Hunt. Jack Marriott was on a crazy hot streak, and after Marriott's injury, they really faded. And yeah, performances to finish the season were poor, insipid attacking displays. They threw away leads, trying to defend them. It was not good enough. Now, I think there's an interesting scenario with Reading at the moment where it's just hard to know exactly what expectations should be, right? The club almost died like a year and a half ago. And that can't be something that you just shrug off. Like, it was so significant. It was so painful. It was so scary. And it was so, it takes away from the club in so many ways. And that's pretty recent still. But also, it's a club that's been in the Premier League and the Championship for most of the last 2 decades. So I don't think there's a particularly long leash being given to the owners or the managers, to be honest. But that is football. The good news is I'm actually much more positive than I thought I'd be. They've lost a load of loanees, a few other bits that weren't exactly key players. One of my favourite young players, Big Kelvin, has gone to Horsens in Denmark without ever quite becoming the Big Kelvin that I think he could become. Maybe it'll happen in Denmark. But I do like what they've added. It's not abundant, but I think it's quality, not quantity. Udoka Godwin-Malif, like him for the level, versatile defender. And then at the top of the pitch, just pace, quality, athleticism. Jacob Brown at the top of the pitch, but also Josh Stokes, who scored on debut. Kai Rees-Lisby from Colchester, who will go straight into being the quickest player in the league, replacing his brother, Kyrell, who was the quickest player in the league last season and now plays for Millwall. I quite like the signings and I quite like the squad. I like the keepers. I quite like the centre-backs. I think Ben Ward, the left-sided centre-back they signed from Accrington in January, is going to have a big breakout season. He gives me slight left-footed Charlie Hughes vibes, to be honest. I quite like the fullbacks. Hayden Roberts, yes. On the right side, you've got a couple in Abrefa and Ashkar Ahmed that need to kind of break through, young players. In midfield, wing, Rinomota, Liam Fraser, Charlie Savage. I wouldn't mind something a bit different here, like a real box-to-box, box crasher, pressing, dual monster type. Out wide, Lisby, Kuriwa, Williams, Lane is okay, I think. Kuriwa and Lisby could be better than that, but we don't know yet. And up top, Jacob Brown and Jack Marriott, 2 good players for the level, if they're fit, and there are question marks there. Plus Josh Stokes, really smart attacking midfielder, just offers a lot, I think. So I like what they've added. I like what the squad looks like now. They've got some young players I'm intrigued by. Emmanuel Osho, Tyler Saki, Abraham Kanu, Sean Patton, Boyd Beecroft. Just sounds like pre-season's been quite positive, and that's what Richardson needed. And hopefully they'll have a positive few results to start the season, because the vibe might not seem good based on last season, but vibes can change quite quickly if there's one thing we all are as football fans, it is completely childlike and liable to get overexcited just as quickly as we get angry. So let's see how we go. We think banging mid-table for Reading, 12th. And above them, Blackpool. They finished 13th last season. This would be a rise of 2 spots. Weird season for them. Went into it feeling ambitious after some quite big name signings. It was an absolute disaster under Steve Bruce. They had a terrible start to the season, and then Ian Evatt eventually turned things around, and they won a lot of games in the last 6 weeks of the season. He did land on something, albeit it did take a while. And Evatt's now a pretty experienced manager at this level, pretty consistent success with Bolton, and now a pretty good start at Blackpool, good connection to the club as well. The owner, Simon Sadler, finance bloke, still on trial in Hong Kong. Not ideal, but we don't know what will happen there. They've lost really basically just Ashley Fletcher. And if last season was a big spending summer, this is more about adding a few bits. Ilmari Niskanen, Karoy Anderson, Jordan Williams and Dion Charles. Pretty good additions, if not amazing. I think they've sorted out the major issues from last season. I don't think they'll have the fear and the chaos that seemed to pervade the place early last season, the kind of shock that they were so bad. They need to avoid an injury crisis, and the bad sign is it feels like they're going into the season with quite a lot of injuries already. But the top of the pitch, you've got Dale Taylor, Ennis, Dion Charles, Bloxham, Bowler. Like, there's quite a lot of quality there in midfield as well. Loads of wide defensive options, and centre-backs I'm not so keen on. So see how we go. I think improvement, but I'm not sure I quite trust them enough yet to make the playoffs. But clearly 11th means we think in a really good case scenario, they could have a playoff tilt. 10th, Oxford United.
Just stick them in somewhere because it could be anything. It's really hard to predict where Oxford will finish for so many reasons. A lot of uncertainty surrounding the club at the moment. Under registration embargo, unlike I think what a lot of people expected to happen, the squad has been retained, apart from Will Volks, who seemingly exercised a clause in his contract after relegation. So that means that you've got a relatively thin squad, but you've got, at the moment, Stan Mills, who didn't play in the Carabao Cup and is being linked to a move away, but he's still at the club, who I believe will be one of the best wingers in the league. You've got Brian de Keersmacher, who's been linked to a move to the Championship, hasn't featured at all in pre-season, but is still at the club. And I think, if fit and playing, would be one of, if not the best midfielder in League One. Cameron Brannigan, Kieran Brown, Jack Curry, Brodie Spencer, Jamie Cumming, Idemo Amaku, like the quality, Tyler Goodrum, the quality within the main 14, 15 players is top-end League One. But how are they feeling about the season? Are they happy to be there? Is the uncertainty surrounding the club at the moment going to impact them? It looked like it may be on Saturday. Is having a rookie manager in Aaron Ramsey, who's never managed a game of football before, Saturday, or he managed 3 games at Cardiff, but this is his first senior full-time job. Is he the person you want with no experience? This is his, being dropped in the deep end in management terms. Is he the person that you want in this situation? He might be a genius. He might be brilliant. Who knows? He's got a good team. In January, if the embargo is sorted, as the Oxford chairman, Dusan Bogdanovic, has claimed, he's claimed that the club will be in a strong financial position. Is there suddenly going to be a spending spree and loads of players brought in? Or is the situation, in terms of the breach of financial regulations, is that not going to be sorted by January? In which case, could there be a points deduction? Could there be existential issues where Oxford are homeless in 20 months' time and are awaiting confirmation that they're able to build a stadium? If they get that confirmation, is there the money there to build that stadium? It is impossible to say. It wouldn't surprise me if Oxford are really good and get to January and those key players move on and the embargo is sorted and they continue losing loads of money that are bankrolled by some, either Eric Thohir, the current billionaire Indonesian owner, or somebody else. Or it wouldn't surprise me if words are cheap and things aren't sorted and we get to January and things are really bad. So we've got us 10th now, taking, I guess, a relatively optimistic view that things will be sorted, because if you're going to properly set out your stall that things are going to spiral, then you probably have them lower. But of all the teams, given the quality within the playing squad, I've seen a couple of people predict us to finish in the bottom 4. And unless you are predicting a fire sale, which I'm pretty sure isn't going to happen, or you're predicting a points deduction where it feels premature to predict that now, I find it impossible to see why a squad of this quality.
Like 4 injuries.
Yeah, but we've got 4 injuries now. I mean, so you're looking at Ruben Riskin,
that's a worry.
Jinu John. Yeah, but the starting 11 is still good. Like the only areas where there isn't really any depth. Like at the moment, centre back is one of them, but we're choosing to have Michael Helik sitting on the bench. Up front is clearly a massive issue where it's just Mark Harris and Gatlin Odonka. Apart from that, and right wing is, if Stan Mills does move on, I don't know what we'll do there. But there's depth in midfield. I think Jamie McDonald should have a big season. There's depth at fullback. Jamie Cumming getting injured would be tough. So yeah, I mean, it was very evident at the game against Orient that when the subs came on, the performance dipped alarmingly because suddenly you had kids in Aidan Elliott-Wheeler and Leo Snowden playing. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think it's a kind of a close your eyes and stick us in the middle job here.
Yeah, justice for Gab. I think Gab Sutton had you in the bottom 4, didn't he?
21st.
I hate it when mum and dad fight. But
what's the justice?
Well, no, I want to send him some support because I'm pretty down on Oxford, which we will discuss on our 1 to 24 extra episode. This is for paid subscribers of NTT20.com. It's a show where George and I basically reveal the biggest disagreements that we have when putting together our combined 1 to 24s from our personal 1 to 24s. At the moment on NTT20.com, you can get a 14-day free trial, and this show will go out on Thursday or Friday this week. So if you sign up to the free trial on NTT20.com/countdown, links in the description for you to click, then you can listen to that and hear what we really disagree with. Okay, in 9th, we are not going too far from Oxford to Wycombe. Wycombe Wanderers finished 11th last season. We've got them rising a little bit. They had really good underlying numbers for basically the whole season, but it just never quite translated into consistent results. Now, Mike Duff's the manager. He's got his first pre-season as Wycombe manager out the way, which I see as a big positive. He told the players at the end of the season that they had wasted 10 and a half months of their lives. So he's setting standards, and will the squad sort of rise to meet them? We will see. They've lost the goalkeeper Norris and some loans. They replaced Norris with 2 keepers, Connor Hazard and Matt Macy. Looks like Hazard will be the starter, who's fine, sort of League One average keeper in my eyes. Steve Cook, experienced defender, comes in. Sam Parker, energetic right back on loan from Swansea. Silko Thomas looked pretty silky in the Carabao Cup game as a winger, 22 years old. Corley Woodrow returns, having been on loan last season. And Emre Tezgel steps up, having had a good loan at Crewe last season. I really like Tezgel as a young attacking player. Nice all-round game, great base to work on. Hope he gains confidence and has a good season here. Like the look of the midfield, Morley, Henderson, Mullins, bit of everything in there, but certainly plenty of technical ability. I really like Fred Onyedinma and always have. And yeah, as mentioned, I like the look of Silko Thomas. I'm not quite there with the squad. So I'm really positive about Duff. Good underlying numbers last season. I wouldn't be surprised if they do really well, but I'm just not, if I'm honest, in love with the goalkeeper, centre-back or full-back areas. And at the top of the pitch at the moment, Woodrow, Tezgel, Fink is fine, but it's definitely not terrifying in League One terms unless Fink kicks on, unless Tezgel proves himself. Woodrow, I'm kind of mixed on. So there we go. That's my thoughts on Wycombe. We've got them finishing 9th. And above them, Stockport County. This would be a drop of 5 places from 3rd to 8th.
Yeah, it feels, or it felt certainly like an end of an era at Stockport County with Dave Chandler moving on, Simon Wilson, who was, I mean, I don't know what his title was, but sporting director of football, head of football ops, one of those things. Moving on to Sheffield Wednesday, and kind of braced, I guess, for Stockport losing quite a lot of players, but it hasn't been quite as bad as I thought it would be. We've seen Odin Bailey move on and go up to the Championship with Pompey, Joseph Olowu, Callum Connolly, Louis Barry after his loan spell. Their attempts to bring him in order to retain him proving fruitless because he followed Wilson to Sheffield Wednesday. Challoner is replaced by Jim McNulty, who was the manager of Rochdale in their promotion from the National League. Interesting profile of manager where initially Rochdale played kind of very expansive passing football, developed over his period there, and they actually came up playing relatively attritional stuff, but early signs from pre-season and the Carabao Cup suggest it's going to be back to trying to dominate the ball, which will be different for them. He's brought in a couple of players that he had relationships with at Rochdale, Watmuff being one. The keeper had a very good season for them, Curran Gordon being another one. Interestingly, another centre-back from Rochdale last season who's moved on to another club and is at the moment playing fullback. Ryan Glover comes in from Barnet, who I really like. He was brilliant for Barnet last season. Looks like he's play a wing-back as well. Mikael Mandron comes in as you'd assume, just another physical striker that if Carl Wittenaz play centre-back again, or Adama Sidibe can't play, that he's kind of the backup option. It's hard to see that he's going to play loads of football. So, they're another team where you really trust their recruitment. I think they've proven themselves to be good recruiters. As ever with a new manager coming in, especially off the back of one who's been so incredibly successful, it's going to be difficult for them. But, it looks like a bit of a drop-off maybe in terms of ambition and spend, but not necessarily to the kind of degree that we saw with Peterborough last season, for example. And I think they should still be pretty competitive, which is why we've got them just on the fringes of the playoffs.
Now, the absolute fringe of the playoffs, of course, is 7th, isn't it? That's where we've got Huddersfield Town. They finished 9th last season, 8 points off it. The playoffs, that is. They sacked Lee Grant when they were top scorers in the league, and they were in 6th place, ended up finishing 9th. Liam Manning was appointed but had to take compassionate leave. He was replaced by Martin Drury at the end of the season. The games were very high scoring, very entertaining, and results were pretty mixed. Drury gets the job full time. He has quite an interesting coaching CV, time with the Man U Academy. He went to Valencia as Carlos Corberan's assistant. He went to Brentford after that, who tend to sign really talented coaches, and then became the Huddersfield assistant in January, and now their manager. So really intrigued by what Drury will bring to the table. Chris Markham's their sporting director as well. His first pre-season, I think he's pretty good, so I'm positive there. But Carlos Corberan, 21-22, is the last Huddersfield manager to lead the club for a whole season. The Kevin Nagel ownership has, to be honest, been a complete disaster, and fans are fed up and low on confidence. So I'm not feeling a huge amount of optimism heading into the season, but I'm quite optimistic, actually. I think the squad's really good. They've brought in Matty Young as a keeper, like it. Iban Boat, lefty defender, quite like it. TBC. Two Dutch players. Ilias Bronkhorst is 29, so young, depending on whether we're talking about life or football. And Derencili Sanchez Fernandez,
who played, I love this, they played right back and right wing together for the same team.
Yeah, Excelsior.
Just go and sign the whole right side.
I love that. Already come with a great relationship, such like me and George. We started the podcast having been friends for years. And you just get that.
So I'm the older right back, and you're the flashy right winger.
You're Ilias Bronkhorst, and I'm Derencili Sanchez Fernandez. That sounds about right. Also, Ethan Briley, 22-year-old midfielder, like that. And I'm an Ashley Fletcher fan. 30-year-old striker. I just think he's good all-round striker for League One. It
feels to me, I was sweet on Huddersfield. Now talking about it, feels like we maybe should have them higher.
I've had that since 16th, mate. But I think they should all be higher.
It felt like their recruitment in the last couple of years under the Kevin Nagel ownership has been so like, we can afford to buy good players, so we're going to buy loads of them.
Yeah.
Whereas this time around, it feels measured, it feels strategic, it feels like they have a style of play, and they're recruiting that style of play. And
that's Chris Markham for you. That's the mark of the man.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of see them a bit like Blackpool here, where I'm positive. I think the bad vibes from the last season can be banished, and I think if they can start playing on the front foot, confident, dynamic, attacking, they've got the squad for it. Like, they really do. I've only talked about the signings. I've not talked about the midfield where they've got
players.
Ledson, Kasumu, Herbie Kane, Marcus McGuane, Tom Yorpender if he doesn't get sold. Up front, they've got Radulovic, who's come on well, Ashley Fletcher and Joe Taylor, whose goals at this level, even if in a Huddersfield shirt, it's been a bit hit and miss. Like, we've got these Dutch players at right back and right wing who know each other well. Like, if you can get Mumba going, if you can get Cameron Asher going, Anthony Evans even, like, there's a lot that could happen if Drury and Markham can get it right. But if it's a low and slow start, then the atmosphere will get bored, tetchy, and things will get awkward and difficult for Drury, and things could kind of ignite, not in a good way. So difficult, could be amazing, I think, could be a shambles, really. We've got them 7th. 6th, we've got Bradford City. Now, Bradford, wow, what a couple of years they have had. 4th last season in League One, having won promotion the year before in League Two. They had an amazing start to the season, bit of a tricky winter, finished okay, lost to Bolton in the playoff semi-final. Very successful season all round. Was it a one-off? Was it just promotion momentum that carried them, or is there more to it? Well, Graham Alexander what an icon in Bradford terms, basically. They had 5 seasons in League Two, finishing between 6th and 15th. Graham Alexander came in and they've got promoted and then finished 4th in League One. How do they play? Uber aggressive without the ball, pretty aggressive with the ball, pretty good on both fronts, a good all-round team. They've lost Jensen Metcalf and Max Power in the midfield, leaves a bit of a hole. Both good ball players. Curtis Tilt at the back, less important. They went and got, very early in the window, Jake Beasley, Adam Phillips from Barnsley, absolute goal contribution merchant from attacking midfield. Macaulay Gillespie to replace Curtis Tilt. And it seemed really like punchy and ambitious. And then it's all gone a bit quiet since then. They brought in Callum Connolly and Henry Cartwright, both of whom I think will be playing in midfield. Reece Welch as well, but not quite on the same level as those initial signings. So I'm positive. I think defence looks good. I like Neufville on the right. I like Tyreek Wright and Nibo Toure on the left. Attacking options look pretty good for the style and the shape that Alexander plays. You've got height and athleticism at the top of the pitch. You've got quality in the attacking midfield area with Poynton, Phillips, Sarcevic. Wow. Yeah, I think based on how they played in the Carabao Cup game and the way that he set up, I think they're trying to go even more aggressive. I think he's trying to take them to a more aggressive attacking level. And I'm quite up for it because he coaches a good team and he's clearly got them very, very motivated. So there you go. We think Bradford will be good again. We think a playoff team in what we think looks a pretty competitive League One. It might be a drop of 2 places, but I see this as a very positive prediction for Bradford City. Above them, George, in 5th, it's time for Milton Keynes.
Yeah, MK Dons, who, to show you how the sausage was made, I think I was a bit more bullish on them than you were.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the 1 to 24 extra podcast.
I'm not going to talk about it now, don't you worry about it. Came up last season in second, probably should have won the league. Started the season not great and improved as the season went on, had a bit of a wobble towards the end, went into a final day, top of the league, but couldn't win on final day to get it done. But certainly, in terms of underlying numbers and also in terms of starting prices, that basically closing prices that they went off in games. The best team in League Two according to those, and probably a mid-table League One side last season. We know that they are rich, we know they are ambitious, and the business they've done over the course of the summer suggests that nothing has changed in that regard and they are here to compete. When you consider that Bradford last season finished where they finished, as precedent as well for good League Two teams to come up and then immediately put themselves at the top end of League One. And in Paul Warne, they've got a bit of a master of getting out of this league, who did so with Rotherham so many times, and then again with Derby. Ryan Wintle comes in, one of the best players in the whole league last season. Obviously there is a bit of a caveat to that, where Cardiff were the most expansive team in the league and he dominated the ball. It's hard to see him getting on the board as much for MK Dons, so it's a bit of a strange one in that sense, especially because playing, I guess, a more attritional style for Cardiff in the Championship, albeit at a different level. He wasn't as effective, but even so, it's a good signing who comes in alongside Dan Barlasser, who's another very good ball player who we've seen be good in the past. Charlie Good was one of the best centre-backs in the league and fits in exactly to the way that Warne wants to play. He comes in too. I really like Cohen Bramall at fullback, and I think Sam Nombe will score a lot of goals with a kind of supporting cast of Aaron Collins, of Callum Patterson. Sammy Silvera is a bit of a low-risk punt, I guess. Like, he's really struggled to show any kind of quality in various spells around the Championship and League One. But he comes in having, shown it obviously enough to get that initial move to Borough in the first place. So continuity from last season, key players retained, a sprinkling of proper League One quality. I think they will be, it wouldn't surprise me again if it's similar to last season, where they don't start particularly flashy, but they will grind. And when things get tough, their style of play and will suit a long season, and I think they will finish towards. I'd be really surprised if they don't finish in the top 6, and I think they could well finish in the top 2.
Right now then, coming down from the Championship, 2 undeniably big clubs for the level in Leicester City and in Sheffield Wednesday. In 4th, we have Sheffield Wednesday, and I have to defer to you here, George, because I have very little idea what the Sheffield Wednesday team is going to be like. I'm not feeling particularly certain on things. The context is they got 18 points on the pitch last season in the Championship, which they had an 18-point deduction, meant they got 0 points overall. Finished bottom, had the takeover that they needed, so they go into this season with new owners, new energy, new people in charge on the football side, such as Simon Wilson from Stockport, who we respect very much. Lots of reasons to be positive about how they are rebuilding off the pitch. They have retained Henrik Pedersen, the head coach. He's been rewarded for what was very hard work in pretty much impossible circumstances. And, I am certainly wondering whether a clean slate would have been better in the dugout, but that's not the approach they've gone for. How do you look at this Sheffield Wednesday side, sifting through the wreckage of the Chanziri era, back in League One, and looking to bounce straight back?
So I would say, most importantly, when looking at this, I've completely ignored last season. Like, I think it's irrelevant. Like, there are the amount of players that will play significant parts in this season who played a significant part of last season. It's akin to a few new signings, effectively. Like, this is a new team, a new squad. This is going to be a Hillsborough of a fan base who have their club back. It's going to be rocking under a new ownership. I think it's basically irrelevant what happened at the end of the Chancery era. Obviously, the only exception to that is Pedersen, because this is the only bit of football that we can really try and judge him off. My assumption with Pedersen is one of two things will happen. Either they start the season well and he does okay, or he'll be gone pretty quickly, because the way that the club are recruiting, and especially with Simon Wilson in post, a certain Dave Challoner without a job, but also a guy who clearly is very good at making strategic football decisions. If they've obviously given Pedersen an opportunity to prove himself, and that's okay, because I think he did a pretty good job last season, and I think it's important as well there is some continuity, and he retains the respect of the Sheffield Wednesday fan base, which is important. But if things don't start well, I think he'll be gone pretty quickly. And unlike, we're going to talk about Leicester in a second, who they came down with, I kind of feel like there are more question marks about what Leicester are going to look like than what Wednesday are going to look like, because they've already basically built their squad. Now, the big elephant in the room, I don't want to call him an elephant, but they brought in 3 keepers, and I don't really like any of them. Conal Truman, Ashley Maynard-Brewer, and the man that started in goal in their Carabao Cup game, Joe Lumley. Now, Joe Lumley is much maligned, and sadly, it's probably all justified. Like, he's not a particularly good shot stopper. He makes a lot of mistakes. He's had decent periods within his career. He's dropping down a level here, but it doesn't fill you with confidence. I really like the Ricardo Santos signing. Huge player in every sense for Bolton for a couple of seasons. Went to Swansea, didn't really play, but he's back now in League One where he's been dominant before. Sils Winkels is one who comes in, having had some good loans at League Two level, most recently at Chesterfield, alongside a very talented young defender in Oteg Bayo. Liam Cooper's still there, providing some depth, I guess. Max Lowe can play either centre-back or left-back. We'll probably go back to playing left-back now. In midfield, we've got Billy Mitchell, who, age 25, has been a really good player for Millwall in the past, and feels to me like a very, very good foil for Barry Bannon, who makes a sensational return to the club and will be such an important player for them. But Mitchell offers the legs that is so necessary alongside Bannon. And Onyango had a good loan last season at Stockport, is also in midfield with Sean Fazire, who was one of the promising players last season too. Callum Slattery comes in from Motherwell, who seemingly is a very, very good progressive passer. So I'm heavily linked to Oxford, so I watched a lot of clips of him early in the summer. And looks to me to have some serious quality. And then in forward areas, Louis Barry is a huge yes from me, on a permanent as well. So this is now his home. He's shown what he's capable of doing. I think now that he's here, and he will be a main man again for a team where at Stockport he was so good, if he's fit, which he was at the back end of last season. He's going to be a massive player for them. And then up front, Harry Gray, who at Rotherham, he's only 17 years old, but at Rotherham showed what he's about. I reckon this could be a huge breakout season for him, and Mason Burstow, who played a big part for Bolton last season. This is already a good team. I know they're operating under financial constraints that are imposed by the EFL in order to ease them out of their issues, but it looks to me like a very, very good 11 already, with some depth in defensive areas, probably more depth needed in attacking areas. But I'd be surprised if this isn't a team that are towards the top end of the table.
So, in third, we got the favourites for the title. Leicester to win the league with SBK 3.15. Sheffield Wednesday 6.4. We've got them third and fourth. With Leicester, George, as always, there's quite a lot to think about. There's quite a lot to get your head around. They were relegated, twice in a row, double relegation, land in League One in some form of chaos off the pitch, an owner and a set of people running the football side of the football club that the fans have absolutely no confidence in, and understandably so, because for them to have suffered even one relegation, let alone back-to-back, points to some major issues. So have those issues gone away overnight or over the course of a summer. They have a new sporting director in James McCarran, so that's a bit different. And they've appointed Russell Martin to take them back to the Championship. They've lost Abdul Fatawu, Ricardo Pereira, Vestergaard, Winks, Ayew, Daka, and obviously Jordan James, who was on loan last season, is not going to be there this season. And they've brought in Alex McCarthy, experienced goalkeeper, Christian McFarlane, young Man City fullback on loan, and then Liam Cullen from Swansea, Connor Chaplin, Wes Burns, who obviously had a good time with Ipswich, 3 or 4 seasons ago now in League One and in the Championship, and then Tommy Watson, probably the most eye-catching signing on loan. They've got this kind of crazy squad, basically a group of players that obviously would never expect to have played in League One. Oliver Skipp, Steffi Mavididi, the signings I've mentioned. There's a group of academy prospects that are quite exciting. Ben Nelson sadly has done his ACL because I think he would have been great. Sammy Braybrook will probably be great, and that's exciting. Louis Page might be sold to Manchester United. Badia Luco is exciting fullback. Jake Evans is going out on loan as well. So with the squad, there's obviously a lot still to work out and sort out. I can't work out if Martin and the fans are going to click or not. And I think that is quite important, because if they buy into Martin and he does the right things by the fan base, some of the major concerns close to mutiny that we're seeing between the fans and the owners will at least be put on pause for a bit. I think the players will like him. I think they do tend to like Russell Martin. But I remember that the Leicester fans didn't really like Enzo Maresca's style of play, even when they won the Championship. So are they going to enjoy Russell Martin's?
And there's also, I know that he won promotion with Southampton afterwards, but it does feel like Martin's success kind of week to week has shifted a bit since him and Luke Williams kind of broke up. I know as I say, the Southampton job was obviously different to that, and I do think his stock has fallen unfairly far off the back of a Southampton Premier League season where obviously he didn't help himself, but with playing style, but that's the way that he plays, and then a very short spell at Rangers, and look what's going on at Rangers now, yet again. I just worry that right now, it's easy to be blinded by some individual players, but this squad needs a lot of work. Like they're 3.15 to win the league with SBK, and I just could not have that at all. You're looking at the moment they've got 4 centre backs on their books: Harry Souttar, who's being strongly linked to a move away to Sheffield United; Ben Nelson, who's done his ACL; Wout Fass, who missed Saturday's game due to personal reasons. Personal reasons probably being I don't want to play in League One; and Caleb Okoli, who did play and should be pretty good. So basically, one centre-back that isn't either injured, rumoured to be leaving, or seemingly not playing out of choice. They also have a 33-year-old Bobby de Cordova-Reid playing up front. The only other option they've got there is Nathan Opoku, who spent last season on loan at Newport County. And then there's the signings of Chaplin and Burns. And I've just got to... This always happens. It happened when Sunderland came down, it happened when Ipswich came down. When these big clubs come down, they have a wage budget that blitzes anyone else in the league, and that means they can afford players who are proven championship quality or had been proven championship quality that no one else can afford, and they come and they drop down, and it just doesn't tend to work. Like Connor Chaplin, unbelievable for Ipswich in League One, and then again in the Championship when they went up to the Premier League. Connor Chaplin last season played for Portsmouth, who were a team battling relegation in the Championship, and he was rubbish. Wes Burns, it was injured for ages, and yeah, of course he's been brilliant in the past, but like there's no, like, football moves, like players' abilities move, and I'm just not convinced that the way to go about operating as a newly relegated League One club is to go out and sign players whose championship careers are kind of ending. So yeah, Mavididi didn't really impact himself, or didn't really, impact games as he should have done last season. Tom Watson should be really good. I think with a lot of games, he's one that I really like and should benefit from playing under Martin. But if with the Leicester squad and the Sheffield Wednesday squad side by side, it feels like Leicester are the ones to me at the moment where there are more gaps and more surgery that needs doing.
Yeah, in terms of our playoff places then, it's Bradford, it's MK Dons, Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester. SBK, top 6 market in League One. Bradford 2.98, Milton Keynes 2.72, Sheffield Wednesday 1.52 and Leicester 1.32. There are 2 teams remaining. They are Plymouth Argyle, but in second, Luton Town. Now, let's be upfront. There's no arguing that these two teams are the ones that finished the season like a train and just missed out on the playoffs. And it looks like we're just going, well, they were really good for 10 to 20 games, so they'll just be amazing and win the league.
Thank you very much for watching. That is the end of the...
Cheers, go out. Yeah. Let's talk about them. Luton, because I would like to protest that we wouldn't ordinarily just make it as simple as that. But with question marks around Wednesday's rebuild and how quickly they'll be able to settle, big questions as you've just described with Leicester. We think these two teams are ready to go now, and if other teams aren't ready to go, could build up a bit of a head start. So Luton, they finished 7th last season after back-to-back relegations. It was the classic, if this season was 2 games longer, they'd have made it in the playoffs, and if they had, they possibly would have been favourites to win the playoffs. They had an underwhelming season, there's no doubt about that, until about mid-March, and then they caught fire, winning 8 of the last 10. Jack Wilshere came home. His first senior manager's role, he had quite a lot to contend with. Things were not in great nick, and when he started, they continued in not great nick. And because of the unhappiness around the way the club was being run, back-to-back relegation, it was a difficult thing for him to walk into. But he did finally get it right. He found a group of players to work, to fit, and it got pretty exciting pretty quickly. They have shed a lot of what was a big squad. Makosso and Ali and Adebayo and Brown and Bramall and Woodrow have all gone. Probably still need to shed a bit more, to be honest, like a Nordas, a Yates, a Holmes. I think they're all on the scrap heap. And just targeted recruitment, which I like. George Johnston, 27-year-old centre-back, captained Bolton to promotion last season. Solid option for them at centre-back or left-back at a push. Harrison Ashby, back-up right-back, I'm not in love with, but there must be something about him because he's always getting loans. Casey Palmer could be the best player in the division. Wouldn't be surprised if he wins Player of the Year. Certainly if he plays anything like he did for the last 3 months of last season, he will do. He scored so many goals. He's so good on the ball in attacking areas, wants it in tight spaces, therefore creates space for other players. Just excellent. And Callum Marshall, they signed, 21-year-old striker from West Ham. Been waiting for him after a storied youth career to kind of kick on. Had a loan at Huddersfield, who thought he was pretty good, I think. And yeah, I'm surprised they've managed to get him on a permanent. I'm very positive about that. The big other stuff was keeping Liam Walsh and Jordan Clark, because Walsh, Clark and Palmer, frankly, when they started to click playing together in midfield, were too good for the level in midfield terms on a technical level, and helped Luton and Wilshere implement a style that saw them start to dominate games. So yeah, clicked at the end of last season. Really good midfield, some exciting attackers as well. I haven't mentioned Gideon Kodwa, Shaden Morris, a really speedy, skillful wide players. And we have to be excited about young Jake Richards, who Luton signed from Exeter, aged 18. He's just turned 19. He'll get minutes, centre midfield, attacking midfield, maybe off the right, just a quality technician. Not that different to a young Jackie Wilshere, might I suggest. So yeah, the question mark is obviously, was that late run just because pressure was off, damage was already done, they basically couldn't make the playoffs, so they almost did, and now opposition will treat them differently, they will be, they'll make themselves much harder to break down. Is the style of play is it a bit too tippy-tappy for Luton Town playing at Kenilworth Road? I don't know. Is it the best approach? We will see. But it certainly looked good at its best last season, and we think that it takes them into the automatic promotion places. But winning the league...
Green Army!
The greenest of armies. Plymouth Argyle. What a roller coaster of a half decade it's been for them. We think they're going back up as champions.
Yeah. I mean, it feels stancy before, but then, like, as I say, when you go through the uncertainties around Wednesday and Leicester, and then you look at the league table from the 1st of January 2026 until the end of the season, Lincoln miles clear, but in second, above Cardiff, above Luton, above everyone else below, was Argyle. Mm-hmm. They had an incredible second half of the season. The underlying numbers completely support the run of form. The numbers improved, the performances improved, and the results improved. They were beating teams, scoring a lot of goals. Who can forget the 5-2 win over Cardiff, for example? They were a side who, under Tom Cleverley, and it basically happened after Derek Adams came in and seemingly just offered, we don't know what he offered, but it feels like his knowing ways and his experience clearly came in alongside an inexperienced head coach in Tom Cleverley and just helped them settle and work out a style of play that was effective for the level. And when you look at the recruitment, it's just all makes a lot of sense. In Alex Mitchell and Alex Hartridge, Mitchell, a player who was there on loan last season and was very, very good. In Hartridge, you've got a left-sided centre-back who can play left-back as well, who is also solid. Wes Harding, who had a good loan there last season, he signs permanently as well to play right-back. In Murphy Cooper, a really good keeper. In Harvey White, a ball-playing centre midfielder who had a brilliant season with Stevenage last season. Really good set-piece delivery. Lauren Tolai is definitely a big miss, but let's not forget that he missed loads of last season and loads of periods when they were good at the back end of last season through injury. And they've gone and got Will Evans, who offers something a bit different. He's a physical striker who scores a lot of goals. And in Peppel, Evans and Hosseini, they've got a really nice blend of strikers there. Hopefully Peppel stays because he was linked to moves at the start of the window. I probably would mind seeing them bring in another wide player on the right-hand side. But the way that the squad looks to me as it stands, and with the continuity off the back of the really strong, the strong numbers last season and the strong run of form at the end of last season, they just look, with Luton, it was a disappointing campaign. And right at the end of the campaign, a short, sharp, shock of good performances and results. Mm-hmm. The Argyle good period was way more sustained over a much longer period of time. And even though we agree that we like a lot of teams in League One, they're the ones who were playing as one of the best teams in the whole division at the back end of last season. And I see no reason to think there's going to be a drop off this time.
What do you reckon? Argyle fans, Luton fans, Leicester fans, Wednesday fans, MK Dons fans, Bradford fans. Shall I go through it 24th to 1st, actually? Why not? That's the end of the League 1 to 24s. Burton bottom with Notts County, Peterborough and Barnsley joining them in being relegated. AFC Wimbledon, Wigan and Bromley and Cambridge take us to 17th. Then we started to get quite positive. Mansfield, Doncaster, Stevenage and Leyton Orient still in the bottom half, but with lots to like. Then Reading, Blackpool and Oxford from 12th to 10th. Wickham 9th, Stockport 8th, Huddersfield 7th. In the playoffs, Bradford City, MK Dons, Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester City. And our top two are Luton Town in 2nd and Plymouth Argyle in 1st. SPK's favourite for the League One title are Leicester, 3.15. Then Sheffield Wednesday at 6.4. Plymouth, our title winners, are 13.0. Luton at 7.4, the third favourites for the division. We're going to do a EFL season preview betting show that'll come out on Thursday, and we'll have plenty of picks in there, so make sure you listen to that. If you're new here, we don't just do this and then stop. We cover the EFL closer than anyone else on the planet. That is both on podcasts, one for each league on a Monday, looking back at the weekend, the betting show on a Thursday, bonus pods as well. But NTT20.com is where we continue, where we put out more and more and more. It's run via Substack. So if you sign up, you get each post sent to your inbox, very easy to read and or listen to. Written pieces, yes, loads of good stuff there. Recaps, previews, analysis, data, but also bonus podcasts, one a week throughout the season, delivered into your inbox. At the moment, there is a free trial to NTT20.com if you use the link in the description, and you will listen in a couple of days to the NTT20 1 to 24 extra episode, where George and I admit what our actual individual 1 to 24s were and argue about some of the things on which we don't agree. So do make use of that 14-day free trial. Enjoy the mountain of season preview content we've put out, and maybe join us on NTT20.com with a paid subscription throughout the 26-27 season. It's going to be interesting in League One. Let us know what you think. Cheers, and go well.